But what has happened over the past couple of minutes, man? Billboard's completed their top 50 hip hop groups of all time. So they got the top 10 in, and it reads as such. Got the notes here. I probably shouldn't even have to look at the notes. I think I know what it is. The Roots, number 10.
Okay.
De La Soul at number 9.
Okay.
We got Salt and Pepper at number 8. Eric B. and Rakim at number 7.
Okay.
Public Enemy at number 6. You got Run DMC at 5.
Okay.
A Tribe Called Quest at 4. NWA at 3. Wu-Tang at 2. And Outkast at number 1. What are your thoughts?
The first thing that stood out in my mind is that I think the things that always happen with these lists, and we're going to talk about this some because it's like, well, we're currently trying to get Ice Cube to come on to According to Hip Hop.
Correct.
I think when people look at NWA, they're looking at the sum of the parts and not the whole of the parts. Because the whole of the parts that were epic were only together for one album.
Yep.
And as a group, they only made 2 albums. And although I think those 2 albums, especially the first one, is epic enough and they're iconic enough, and their separate parts have been so epic that it warrants them being a top 10 group,
Right.
3 is too high for them.
I think so,
Especially
too.
when you have Public Enemy
With
at
2
number
albums.
6.
Yeah.
Especially when you have Public Enemy at number 6.
Yeah, I think Public Enemy should be over them. If we're talking about a group, now obviously NWA's impact as individuals, Easy as an individual, Dre as an individual, Cube as an individual, and even if you want to throw, DOC, Ren, whatever.
Villain in Black was a dope album.
Exactly. That's cool. But if we're talking about as a group, we're talking about Niggas for Life and Straight Outta Compton.
Right.
That's all you got.
And you want to know what?
And that's unfair to Tribe, De La, and Public Enemy.
And here's what I'll tell you. Because Niggas for Life lacks Ice Cube's social commentary and rhetoric, it has not held up as well because of it.
Straight up.
It's just the fact of the matter. Is it still a classic? Yes. Is it still great? Yes. Is it as epic as it once was? No. Because the message is sex, drugs, and violence, and not in the way KRS-One is talking.
Yeah, it was no direction lyrically on there, but sonically they were taking it places. But sonically it's not The Chronic. And lyrically it's not Death Certificate. So it's like, where does it fall? Even though,
Or Doggy Style.
Oh, no. I was just going with the people that are in the group.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But I think NWA makes these lists for impact. CJ Kidd with the Super Chat says, I said in the Super Chat last year, eventually there were going to be an official Black Star versus A2H in some form. And now that's come to fruition.
No, that's not. That's not actually what's about to happen. I have a lot to say. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, too. But I want to unpack a few things today, honestly, because, the way that this man keeps behaving, I think it needs to be addressed on another level in another manner of ways. So I think those who were like maybe expecting me to attack him today, it's like, well, that's not really what's about to happen. But I do have some like very valid questions and statements and sentiments, and I have a couple questions for you as well.
Yeah,
because I want to gauge like some of your feelings and thoughts about it, so we can kind of come.
I got a lot to say.
Right, so do I, and I feel like it's probably going to take up most of the show, which is probably why we need to get to it.
Okay.
But I know I say in jest and in satire and in a lot of ways I say it's very problematic. But when I say it's very problematic this time, I say it in a serious way for a multitude of reasons, mostly about his behavior as a black man. But we're going to get into that.
Okay. Okay. NWA being at number 3, I think that's a little too high. I think they're definitely top 10 based on, just impact alone and the members that they have in there and how early they came in the game. Public Enemy should be ahead of them. We're going to talk Public Enemy because Texas Nation is celebrating 35 years today, along with Long Live the Kane. But Public Enemy, in my personal opinion, could easily be number 1 on a list like this. I think they have some of the most impactful songs ever. I think that the way that group collectively came together at the time that they came together, it's something that had never been done before at that time and even since. So I think just the makeup of Public Enemy, the production, the sound, the message, how their songs have held. The only thing about Public Enemy that one could say maybe is maybe album for album, they didn't have the end-to-end play that some of the other groups may have had on multiple albums, but then they got It Takes a Nation, which could be the greatest hip-hop album ever on top of that.
There's a few things with that. I think, you know, some of what makes Public Enemy so great is also kind of what maybe hurts them in an overall standing. They lack agility.
Right.
Like their party is the greatest like social revolutionary party hip hop has ever known, but it is one type of party. There is no other type of party or no other type of music with Public Enemy.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
No, I get what you're saying.
And so I can understand an Outkast and a Wu-Tang being ahead of Public Enemy because it's like, well, they provide commentary, and it is social commentary, not to the level of Chuck D, but they do provide social commentary. But they provide a whole world of other things that Public Enemy does not provide. When Public Enemy provides that at its peak, you get It Takes a Nation of Millions, which you can say, and a lot of people still feel that way. I believe DJ Premier has said on many occasions he believes it's still the greatest rap album that's ever made. So it's high praise from all-time great producer.
Straight up.
But that's just at their peak. The whole parts of them as well. Top 5 all-time, yes. Number 1, probably not.
I think the 3 groups that you can make an argument for putting ahead of them would be Cass, would be Wu-Tang, and definitely Tribe.
I think De La has an argument as well.
I think De La has an argument. I think De La, they're kind of the inverse of each other, right? Where it's like De La has the albums, but not the powerful single songs that just are, you know, showstoppers.
I think what keeps De La, like in a lot of people's minds, out of the top 5 is it's like, well, song for song, they don't compete well with the other guys.
And there's no Flav in that group. There's no Chuck in that group.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to compete when you don't, like, you know, De La has great concept guys, great producers, great rhyme spitters, but not necessarily somebody whose star quality pushes the boundary and pushes them over the top.
Right.
Like, why NWA stays in people's consciousness so much? Well, how many rap groups have legitimately had like three stars?
Straight
like,
up.
Superstars. Like Ice Cube is a superstar. Eazy-E is a superstar. Dr. Dre is a superstar.
Yeah. I think they're probably the best trio hip-hop's ever seen.
No. You were right when you said that, too, because, I mean, if you just look at what they did, the brief time that they did it together, almost all of it is classic.
CJ Kid with the super chat says, should Boot Camp Click have been on the list? They're not a group.
I mean, what
They're
album?
a collective.
Right, and how many albums did they release, too?
I think so. Now, Helter Skelter, they were on the group. They were on the list, right?
Yeah, because Nocturnal was, they made a couple other joints, but no, who else? I think, what did you think about the Roots cracking the top 10 over a Bone or a 3-6? Because I know I'm the Roots guy between the two of us. Because when I thought, when the Roots made the top 10, when you said that, I immediately thought about Bone.
Yeah.
And I thought about 3-6.
I will say this about the Roots. The Roots catalog, album for album, is extremely
I'm about to say, but I
impressive.
think Philadelphia is better than anything that Bone or 3-6 ever made.
Better than East 1999.
And do you want more? Yeah, I think Do You Want More and Philadelphia are better than East 1999.
I always prefer Things Fall Apart.
That's what I mean. Things Fall Apart. Not
Okay.
Do You Want More. Do You Want More is the one with Proceed. That actually precedes Philadelphia. Yeah. Things Fall Apart and Philadelphia are better than East 1999, in my opinion, in the end.
Well, I'm glad that a group like the Roots is getting their just due, because I think throughout their prime, they were always considered to be the underrated group. I think what Black Thought's doing right now on the mic has really helped, you know, people garner that attention for them to get in the top 10. And I think them being on Jimmy Fallon every night helps too. So
Right. See, but that's why I'm asking you if they are deserving of it, or is
I
this
think they're
something that has
deserving
come
of
with
it.
the notoriety that has
Yeah.
come with it post their prime career?
they're one of those groups where it's like they deserved it and they probably would have got overlooked, but they had to do some other shit to
Right.
actually get the
Right.
proper placement.
Like when they were deserving of this placement, it wasn't like popular to say, but now
Right.
it's popular to say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think De La Soul being in that top 10 is a similar thing. I think that once their catalog got available and once people really start campaigning for that, us very heavy, people start recognizing, because they've always been left out of these
Well, you
lists.
can't have a top 5 hip hop group catalog and not put the group in the top 10.
Right. CJ Kid with another super chat says, did Game leave G Unit affect the group the same way that Ice Cube leaving NWA? Just a question. Nah, because I don't really believe Game was really in G Unit like that. I think the Game being in G Unit was more of a paperwork thing as opposed to them really being a collective. Because what did he really contribute to that G Unit brand outside of his own individual project? Ice Cube leaving NWA took the pen away. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it took the social commentary out of the pen away. Ren's a dope MC.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a dope ghostwriter too, because he wrote a lot of easy stuff after the fact. But he's not Cube. He's not DLC.
Not many people are.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially Cube. Yeah.
All right. Outkast being number one, and we can move on. I have a lot to say about Outkast being number one because, first of all, growing up, that being my favorite group, I never thought I would see a day when hip-hop publications would say Outkast the greatest group ever.
Hold on. Who did this? Is this a hip-hop publication?
Well, this is Billboard.
Yeah. See,
yeah, okay.
See?
But this is the same Billboard that actually had Andre 3000 at number 12 all time, and Big Boy wasn't cracking the 50. So my thing is, if this is the greatest group all time, it's just two members, right? How is one of the members one of the 15 greatest MCs ever, and the other member, who really is responsible for most of the music that we hear sonically from Outkast that they're obviously holding very high, isn't cracking the 50?
This is a classic case of what the kids say. The math ain't mathing.
Yeah, it does.
This is how the math don't math. So let me get this straight. This is the greatest hip hop group ever.
Right. You have them at number one.
This group happens to be a duo.
Mm-hmm.
In this duo, by the same publication, where they reside at number one guy is number 12 on your top 50.
Oh, here's the caveat. The guy that's at number 12 has nothing by himself. Only the stuff that you have at number one, really, as a rapper.
Right. His rap stuff is what
It's on that group.
It's on that group.
Yeah. And he's 12 somehow.
And he's 12. The other guy who's part of the same group that's at number one,
who actually has solo stuff
and has
that's comparable to
and has exceeded his collaborative material and guest appearances is nowhere on the list.
Insane.
And people think that something's wrong with us and we're trying to put Andre down.
This is the thing, man.
How?
This is how
math don't math.
And I
equals 17.
This is why people will say Andre 3000's overrated. When you put these type of things together and you try to make sense of it, yes, I could co-sign the fact that because having him at number 12 and not having Big Boy on the list at all and having the duo at number one, this guy's overrated.
Well,
You're
like
basically saying he's responsible for all of it.
It's like this. It's like take this case to court and be like, okay, here we have the greatest duo of all time.
Mm-hmm.
We have this guy at number 12 all time as an MC. And the judge looks at you and he's like, what about the other guy? It's like how do you explain that? How do you explain that they get to number one if the other guy's not on your list?
Exactly.
And then he's like, then he reads the guy's file at number 12 and he opens up the file and he's like, well, there's nothing in this file except for the stuff that he did with this guy. Book them both.
Big Boy's underrated and Andre's overrated based on what these publications put out.
It's the criminal nature which is happening within the dynamic of one duo. It's literally one is being criminally overrated while one is being criminally underrated at the same time, and then you're calling them the greatest group of all time.
I have a theory. I have a question, Anna, I guess so.
And this list, this actually is an old head list.
Mm-hmm.
Look at it. Run DMC, Tribe Called Quest,
well, it's groups.
Wu-Tang, Outkast. Groups don't exist anymore.
Groups don't exist anymore.
Everybody Bobby Brown now.
Okay, so this is my question, or my antidote, I guess I would say. Do you think Andre going out there and almost pleading to New York to listen to Southern rappers is why they hold him so high? Because nobody else wanted that or vocalized that level of acceptance. They continuously talk about, remember when Andre said, South got something to say? South got something to say? Yada, yada. You know what I mean? Because we didn't look at it like that down here like that.
Well, this is what I mean, is that, he's taken on kind of a life of his own because we don't know what his life is like because he's never recorded any material. That's what I mean. There's this mythology that shrouds around him that doesn't shroud other great MCs because we know what they're like because they have released material. Like I say this on the show all the time. Growing up, my two favorite MCs were Andre and Nas. Why do you think I gravitated more towards Nas?
I mean,
he made albums, Mike. He actually made material for me to listen to gravitate towards.
Yeah.
It's literally that simple. And so when you don't have anything to gravitate towards, well, you just fantasize. And what this is one big fantasy. but it's not reality.
It's not.
It's not.
It's not anything tangible.
It's not.
John Phillips with the super
Him
chat
playing a
says,
flute in Japan is what's tangible right now, and I'm being serious when I say that because, Mike, guess
You're right.
what? That's what's really going on. Him rapping ain't been what's going on really since Outkast made Stank on Ya.
You're right. John Phillips with the super chat says, all them groups ain't better than 3-6. Mike, stop. See, you talking to the 3-6 fan.
3-6 just crossed my mind. 3-6 and Bone crossed my mind in this top 10. I think EPMD crossed my mind because I know how some people feel from the prior generation about EPMD as well.
I think it's kind of convoluted when it comes to 3-6. Like, we look at 3-6 as almost like that whole Hypnotized Camp, Prophet Posse collective. I think that's what people...
In Wu-Tang getting that at number 2?
They are getting that.
Because, I mean, outside of Into the Wu-Tang and Wu-Tang Forever, it's like, well, you got one all-time great album and top 10 album, much like Public Enemy. But Public Enemy's second best album and Wu-Tang's second best album.
But the difference between Wu-Tang and
then the third album is not conversational.
Of course not. But the difference between Wu-Tang and that 3-6 situation is the fact that Project Pat's not a member of 3-6 Mafia.
It's fair.
It's not. You know what I mean?
Well, Wu has more stars. Wu just has more stars, and that's just it too.
Leroy Green with the $20 super chat showing love says, "What's up, A2H8 Pope all as well. Can't stay long, but I got my cape on for Talib. And before you guys go and make sure you tell the heads how important it is to learn from somebody else's blueprint so you can do it better. One, we're gonna talk about all
Where
that.
Leroy going?
I don't know.
Grabbing some.
Stay around for a second.
Grabbing
Leroy.
some of Sincere's beats up in New York, a rap round table like you been, Leroy. I've been hearing about you, Leroy.
Leroy out here spitting. But what I was gonna say though, as far as it wasn't the cast thing. What was I gonna say?
3-6 Project Pat.
No, 3-6 Project Pat. I really think that where did this Andre praise come from to this level? I mean, it's just unfair.
This is no, I don't think you understand. You know, how about this? It's almost like what Jadakiss said on We Gonna Make It. You know, dead rappers get better promotion.
So like when you're missing
in action. Oh, imagine being missing in action, but still being in everybody's face.
I know what I was gonna say. I got my thought back. It made me think about what Busta Rhymes said at the BET Awards when he was accepting his Lifetime Achievement Award. He said he never wanted to be a solo artist because he was cool with just dropping a 16. He didn't want the responsibility of going out there having to make a full song by yourself, spitting 3 verses by yourself. It was just easier, keyword easier, to just jump in and spit your 16s and go home. So y'all giving this man all this elevation for somebody who never took that step to go out there and create this by themselves. And you have a credible MC who's done the solo thing on multitudes of levels telling you what it is.
Hold on, 2 things about it.
And people tell us that don't matter.
First of all, a couple things. Who Andre favorite MC?
Busta was one of them.
No, Busta
I think
Rhymes.
It's Q-Tip and Busta
Rhymes. Correct. How you gonna have Andre ahead of Busta when Busta pretty much just gave you Andre's formula, but he actually made himself into an album maker and complete MC?
Yeah. He's telling you it's just easier to jump on people's records.
He's literally and listen to what he's saying in this. When he said from 93 to 96, just did verses. As in, I went through the process and paid the dues of learning how to become a solo artist.
And he did a pretty damn good job, too. I give him that.
He did an excellent job. And I thought it was a wonderful speech.
Yeah. Esquire with the super chat says, I feel where y'all are coming from with the cast take, but they undeniably have the greatest album catalog of all the groups, arguably 5 classics in a row. I'm fine with that. But again, where do you hold Big Boy in this?
But right, that's
my only thing.
I don't have a problem with them being number 1. Between them and Wu-Tang my whole life, that's been my 1 and 2. And so if you just want to keep it to group catalog work, well, I think their 4-album run is the best 4-album run. And I've been saying that since they made Stank on You. This is the best 4-album run a group has ever done, and I don't think anybody's come and exceeded that.
Yeah.
They're number 1.
Exactly.
Not him. He's number 1.
Exactly.
They're number 1. Say it with me, everybody. They're number 1. Not he's number 1.
Blue Collar Hustler with the super chat says, they don't want God Body Music as number 1. Wu isn't top 5 or top 2. They're number 1 in anything stated. To the contrary, is a disgrace to hip hop. I love the love for Wu-Tang, man.
I do too, and I do love Wu-Tang, and it's Wu-Tang forever.
Yeah.
But here's the real reality about why you can't put him at number one. All the other guys around him have at least 2 undisputed classics.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though like by all other measures and accounts,
Right.
they are. How many times we got to have this album and this catalog conversation?
Yep.
Like, why do we hold Stevie Wonder so high? Prince, Michael Jackson,
Yep.
Janet Jackson, Marvin Gaye. Why?
The albums.
Thank you.
I mean, they got, I guess, one in a possible classic as a group.
That's what I'm saying.
Whereas Tribe dropped 3 classics in a row, according to the source.
Well, see, this is what I'm saying. Well, they start losing on that second album to all the groups they're around.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whether you think it's Low End Theory or Midnight Marauders, it's Tribe's second best album. That shit's better than Wu-Tang Forever.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me?
Yeah.
Whatever you think Outkast's second best album is, whether it's Southern Playalistic or AT Aliens, no, that's better than Wu-Tang Forever.
It is.
Whatever you think De La's second album is.
Yep.
Whatever you think Public Enemy's second best album, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Fear of a Black
Fear
Planet.
of a Black Planet. Yeah. And so where they lose at is that really the only second album that they have that's comparable with the other top tier groups is NWA with Niggas for Life, and they lost their front man. So I don't think they're number one by that measure when you take into account all the other guys that have made classic material, Outkast being included in that as well.
AB Studios with the super chat says, Andre, the definition of wasted talent. We do know that he can rap and produce a song from pop to hip hop. Why not a full body of work? I will never understand it. Understand this, AB Studio. He can't do it.
Right.
It's just, I mean, I know people don't want to come to that realization, but he can't do it.
You do what you can.
Yeah, exactly.
And what you cannot, you don't.
And on top of that, I mean, the man signed a record contract. So if they knew that he had it in him, something will come out. They put out records for dead people. You know what I'm saying? So he don't have it.
They keep putting out
Just
albums
what it
for
is.
dead people. Dead people be popping up with material. I'll be like, man, this guy got bars for days.
Young Thug just dropped the album from jail. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, if he had it, we would hear it. He ain't got it. And I know people don't want to believe that, but that's just the truth of the matter. And that's the issue with him being so high over people who've proven to have it.
See, and let's even qualify that. As a solo artist, he doesn't have it.
Because it's so much easier when Big Boy can come in and build with Organize, which he has a relationship with, or Mr. DJ or whoever, and set the foundation of a record, give you the hook. You know what I'm saying? And Dre comes in and puts his perspective on it, spits his 16, and goes and, you know, does some meditation or play a flute or whatever. He didn't do that back then.
It's time to go to the next set.
Leroy Green with the $10 with the super chat says, didn't get those beats yet, Coop, but I'm working on it. Right now, I'm going into Zoom to ask another artist for advice. You'd appreciate him, Coop. He was on Bad Boy. Peace. Don't peace yet. We're about to go to this Talib conversation. All right. Well,
Complex said ATL number one. Leroy, why ain't you hollering at no producers down here?
Atlanta is the number one city in hip hop. That's another thing I never thought I'd see.